Welcome in. It is yet another preview here on Sports by the Book. Today, for the 2025 season, we head to Cincinnati to break down the Bengals heading into yet another year for Joe Burrow and company. I'm Jeff Parles. She's Alex White. And Alex, you know, it's kind of crazy to think, but the Bengals have been on the outside looking in the last 2 years. Obviously, Burrow's injuries 2 years ago playing a big role. And then last year, a defense that was one of the worst, if not the absolute worst in the NFL.
Well, of course, it all starts with the beginning of the season, right? And the Bengals have struggled to start the season with Joe Burrow and in this era, but they picked it up at the end last year and really made a run and almost found their way into the playoffs. The big question is, can they start stronger? Did they fix their defense? And can they have a shot of making the playoffs and making another run for the AFC Championship?
Well, Joe Burrow and company last year, remember, started 1-4, and they just could not get out of that hole that they dug for themselves. And again, you lost to two of the big three in that mix, but we didn't know how good Washington was in week 3. And then obviously they lost to New England. Week 1 was as bad gets, and it cost them the postseason in the end a year ago. Let's go to the AFC North. Of course, the division still goes through Baltimore as the Ravens have super duper high expectations yet again. 11.5 on the Ravens. We'll have the full breakdown of Baltimore on their preview. But the Bengals come in at number 2, a 9.5 win total with juice to the over at -125 here at the South Point. To break the playoff list streak, they're -130 on the yes to make it, +110 on the no so that would be missing the playoffs, +220 to win the North, 9-1 to win the AFC, and 20-1 to win the whole thing. Remember, since Patrick Mahomes has taken over as the starter, there have only been 2 other teams that have represented the AFC in the Super Bowl. So since the beginning of the 2018 season, the New England Patriots and Tom Brady, of course, en route to Brady and Belichick's final championship in New England, and the 2021 Cincinnati Bengals. And that's it. It's been Kansas City every other year out of this conference. So Burrow and Brady are the only 2 that break up what would have been every single year since Mahomes has taken over as a starter.
The Bengals are a very interesting team and a hard team to handicap, right? Because as bad as their defense was last year, they still found a way to get 9 wins. And that is because their offense is just electric. And we saw it from Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins last year. And they paid everyone, right? Everybody's coming back for their offense. So you can't knock them down too much from that defensive side. Although Pittsburgh made a lot of changes in a win now mode, and they're really going to try to push them for that. Baltimore, it's hard to go against Baltimore too. They are just such a well-oiled machine, and John Harbaugh has just been fantastic as a head coach there for so long, and they have great pieces. All 3 units are really good. 1 unit actually wasn't so great last year, but we'll get into that when we do the Ravens preview. But so it's tough. Bengals are a very hard team to handicap, a very high ceiling, but they've just been, 2 seasons of just 9 wins and double digits the 2 years before that, hoping to get back to that.
Well, and again, 2 years ago, you had the excuse. Your quarterback only played 10 games, and you were 500 in those 10 games he played. Jake Browning played a lot better than I think any of us imagined in relief of Burrow that year. But last year, look, Burrow was the leading passer in the NFL. Chase was the best receiver in the NFL, and you missed the playoffs. It just can't happen regardless. Even with that defense being pathetic, still got to find a way to make the postseason last year. Of course, you see they opened the season with the Browns, and you can open your season here at the South Point with the $25,000 guaranteed jackpot parlay card, $5 a card, as many as you want, $25,000 guaranteed. If it goes through that number, it just gets added to the prize pot. And of course, Cincinnati begins the season in Cleveland, a place where they've struggled in the Burrow era to finally beat them in Cleveland a year ago. But remember, that took just an unbelievably pathetic Cleveland Brown offensive I was going to say outburst, but it was anything but an outburst that day for the Browns on a wet day in Cleveland. But Cincinnati opens with the Browns. And Alex, it's a game where the Bengals are going to be used again in Survivor. We know this. They'll be used in Survivor pools. The Bengals have only won 1 time since Burrow has taken over at quarterback in the 2020 season in week 1. And they've been favored. So in 2021, they were a dog. They won. 2020, they were a dog. They lost. They've been a favorite the last 3 years and have lost the last 3 years in week 1. And now It's a game you got to get week 1. And quite frankly, it's a game you got to get week 2 against Jacksonville.
Yes, it
You
is.
have to start 2-0 if you're the Cincinnati Bengals, because week 3 through week 7 is awfully difficult. You have 3 NFC North games with 2 of them on the road mixed in. You have to go to Denver to play a top flight defense in their building, which again, early season Denver at Mile High is a very difficult place to win. And then you got a short week with Pittsburgh, who, again, the Bengals it's been a mixed bag against the Steelers. It's really just been dependent on really, we've seen weird turnover games from Burrow in that series. We've seen the Bengal defense implode a year ago. This is, Alex, it's a tough stretch from week 3 to week 7. And then after that, other than the Baltimore stretch in weeks 13 through 15, which is outrageous, this is a pretty manageable schedule other than those 2 stretches this year, Alex.
I would go even further, weeks 3 through 9, because I do think the Jets and the Bears are going to be tough outs for them.
Sure.
I mean, they'll be small favorites, but they're definitely going to be the better defenses on the field. So, yeah, I say weeks 1 and 2, they definitely need to get those wins. I could see them going 3 and 4 through the next 7 weeks. So I like that they are switching it up. They're playing guys in the preseason games. They're trying to get ready for this, which we have never seen with Zach Taylor and this group. So I think that could help them be ready for the Browns in week 1.
Let's just say this with the Bengals as a whole, and you bring up those 2 games, they'll be favored. They should be probably 4, 5, maybe even a touchdown if the Jets get out to a bad start. But you are right. Those are not, at least last year, those would have been games that the Bengals would have struggled in because they would have let, at least looking at the Jets offense, not looking at them as an elite offense, but they would have given up points in that game. Jet defense, again, don't want to overreact to preseason, looked a lot sounder defensively than they did at any point last year. And in Chicago, our Bear preview's out. I'm extraordinarily high on Chicago, so that could be a loony bin like 38-35 game potentially on that front. But again, I'm never going to be able to quit Joe Burrow, Alex. And we'll get to that offense now, where Joe Burrow, again, through the first 5 seasons of his NFL career, has the highest completion percentage in NFL history. It's just under 69%. And this offense last year was not the issue. This offense was good enough to win 12, 13, maybe even 14 games. If you gave them Kansas City's one score game luck, and you gave them even a average defense a year ago, the Bengals are pushing Baltimore for the NFC North crown, maybe even win the NFC North. The offense is pretty much the same. They paid Chase, they paid Higgins. Burrow's obviously under contract for a long time. They do reinvent the running back room a little bit. Chase Brown is still there, but they bring Samaje Perine back. They draft Taj Brooks, who you and I loved at Texas Tech in a late round pick. Tight end room is pretty much the same with Gesicki and Sample. They do bring in Noah Fant to at least add to that room. Offensive line is a little bit different. That's really the biggest thing for me, Alex, where both guards are new this year. You draft Dylan Fairchild, the 3rd-round pick, who likely will beat out Cordell Volson at left guard, and then you bring in Lucas Patrick to be the starting right guard from New Orleans.
High-powered offense. We know that 9th in total offense. They were the best passing offense, 273 yards per game, but 30th in rushing, which they did use Chase Brown a lot in the passing game with 65 targets and 360 yards, 6th in points. All of that is great. And I do like Taj Brooks getting drafted in the later round. I think he can contribute to that ground game, but it really just comes down to the defense for me. And it worries me that they did pay all these guys on offense, and then what does that leave for the other side of the ball, right? So it's never been an offensive concern with the Bengals. It's just the full package. And looking at protector of the year right there. But Joe Burrow, favorite to have the most passing yards again this year. And I think that is the correct number. And I think he should be. It's just going to be an uphill battle for them once again.
Burrow about 4-1 pocket to lead the NFL in passing yards. He's also plus 650 to be the MVP. It's him. It's the big 4. Mahomes, Burrow, Lamar, and Allen. It's the big 4 in the AFC when we're talking about the quarterbacks. We've made it really the big 3 on the team. Cincinnati seems to be the one that could vault their way into that category just on the explosiveness of that offense.
Absolutely.
yet again. See on your screen, Burrow 4-1 here at the South Point to lead the NFL in passing yards yet again. Then Mahomes at 8-1, Goff, Mayfield, and Prescott at 10-1, and then it starts zooming up after that top five. Well, you want to get to also Jamar Chase is also the betting favorite to lead the league in receiving yards at 6-1. And with the question mark of Justin Jefferson's hamstring, that makes a whole lot of sense to me. We talked about Nico Collins on the Texans preview as well at 10-1 here at the South Point. You see Higgins on the other side of the screen at 50-1 as well. He is listed. All right, Alex, let's go to the other side of the ball. And this is what held them back a year ago. Just a defense that was putrid. And Lou Lamoriello, who I like, they had no choice. They had to let him go. He's now in Indianapolis as the defensive coordinator. They go to the college ranks. They bring Al Golden in from Notre Dame, who obviously Golden, as a head coach, does not have a good track record. As a defensive coordinator, he has a great track record, but it's mostly at the collegiate level, if not all of it at the collegiate level. And I just wonder, with a defense where your best player is in a hold-in with Trey Hendrickson, similar to what's going on in Washington with Terry McLaurin, I expect Hendrickson to play, but again, if the contract doesn't get done, what's the motivation? He's 33-1 to win Defensive Player of the Year. They finally got a deal done with their first-round pick, Shamar Stewart, after a summer long of just nonsense from really the Bengals side more so than Stewart's side. You go out, you bring in TJ Slayton, you bring in Oren Burks, you bring in Demetrius Knight at the weak side linebacker position in the second-round draft pick. Alex, the big question here is, did the Bengals do enough to improve the defense? And, I don't know if they did personnel-wise, but I am a believer in regression to the positive. It can't possibly be that terrible 2 years in a row. And even if they get slight positive regression, okay, they go from defense 31-32 to defense like 22-21. That's more than enough to get the Bengals over the hump and back into the postseason yet again.
It's funny because they kind of went all in on Al Gordon, right? Or Al Golden. They are expecting him to take the personnel that they have and get the most out of what they have already. So I do trust him. I love that he was offense and then defense, so knows both sides very well. But I don't think it's enough to win the division. I'm not going to get that far with them. I do think that they can get in the playoffs. The books are telling you that too, minus 130 for them to make the playoffs. I do think this division is still pretty competitive. A lot to be seen about Pittsburgh, but I'm not going to jump in on them to take a step above the Ravens just yet. Even though I do think that Joe Burrow's awesome. Just like you said, coming from last year where they were 25th in total defense, 21st in passing defense, 19th in rushing, and 25th in points allowed, I can see them taking a step forward. I don't think they're going to be a top 10 defense.
So Cincinnati is 9-1 to win the AFC, to 20-1 to win it all. And of all the bets on the board, that 20-1 on Cincinnati is my favorite Super Bowl bet going in. Now, it's a question mark on defense, and it is very hard to win the Super Bowl when you have a shoddy defense. And it is darn near impossible to, and especially in an AFC that is, look, this might be the best roster Buffalo has had other than the year where they were just 14 seconds shy against Kansas City. The Chiefs are the Chiefs. Until they're dethroned in the AFC, I think it's silly that they're not the betting favorite to come out of the AFC. The Ravens, we'll have the Ravens preview. I know you're super high on them. I'm not as high as you are, but they're still a team that is a regular season behemoth. They are a great regular season team. But Joe Burrow has the capabilities of being the best quarterback in the NFL. And this offense is going to be nearly unstoppable if that offensive line improves in the fashion I expect it to year on year. The Bengals are my favorite value Super Bowl play at 20-1, 9-1 to win the AFC, I think is good as well. Plus 220 to win the AFC North is also good because I expect Baltimore to come back slightly. And you know what? Baltimore comes back slightly and goes 11-6. That might be enough for Cincinnati to steal the division. So I think they're all good. But in the end, I have the Bengals as my value Super Bowl play. It's between them, Buffalo, and Kansas City for me when it's all said and done in the AFC. Higher on Bengals than I am on the Ravens, which I know you don't agree with, Alex.
I can't fault you for a value play. When you're getting 20-1 or better on a team with a quarterback like that, but I don't put as much stock into the quarterback, I don't think, as you. I don't know if Joe Burrow can carry this team fully by himself. So I can't get there completely.
I will say this roster is significantly better than the team that got there in 2021 and darn near won the thing against the Rams. But, well, again, it's that stretch. You got to start 2-0. You're way better than Cleveland and Jacksonville. Win those 2 games, and then if you get to week 7 in those 4, even if they go 2-3 with a 2-0 start, and then 4-3 with the Jets and the Bears at home, 2 games you're supposed to win. You're 6-3 at the bye. Week 10, nice placement as well. I've talked about that, where teams with buys from week 8 through week 11, I think, have a distinct advantage. And Cincinnati has the week I want to buy more than any, which is week 10, right? Smack dab in the middle of the 17-game schedule. So, but yeah, that's the value play in the Bengals. And, it's probably, if the Bengals are winning the AFC North, Joe Burrow probably wins the MVP as well at plus 650. So, if you like them to win the division, I would also say take a piece of Burrow to be the MVP of the league.
Has not won it yet, correct?
That's what we're waiting on. Yep. All the other of the big 3, the other big 3 have all gotten there now. Of the big 4, I should say. Mahomes obviously there multiple times. Lamar there multiple times, and then Allen finally won his a year ago. There you go. You see the odds there. It is Lamar, then Josh, then Joe, then Patrick. That's the odds right now, which actually leads me to think that Burrow and Mahomes are the 2 best bets of the big 4 because they have the longest odds of the big 4. And it's going to take a lot for someone outside of the big 4 in order to win the MVP, Alex.
Yeah. So I like you got your value. You're high on the Bengals, not quite as high. I'm looking more to fade them almost and looking at an under 9.5, getting a plus price there. I would say miss the playoffs at a plus price because I do think the AFC is going to be more competitive. I expect 3 from the West to make it in once again, and maybe just 2 from this one, which might be the Bengals and Pittsburgh fighting it out. So I think I'd rather go with the under, though, because they could still sneak in, right? If this division does kind of fall and they're 9-8, they could still sneak in. So I think I'd rather go under 9.5. If I were to play anything on the Bengals, I'm not going to. As I mentioned at the very beginning of this is a hard team to handicap when you have an offense like this one, and then the question marks on the defensive side.
The big thing obviously with the Bengals is the defense. If the defense can just have some positive regression, the playoff drought ends at 2 years and the Bengals are back in there. But again, a very competitive AFC. We didn't expect Pittsburgh to be a playoff team a year ago. They end up, of course, sneaking in. No one was, other than Colin Cowherd. Denver was not on anyone's radar a year ago. They made the playoffs. So look, there's always a surprise or 2 in the AFC, or in the NFL, period. So we'll see how it all plays out for the Bengals. Again, a win total of 9.5, and the second favorite in the AFC North at plus 220. All right, that's what we got for you. This has been the Cincinnati Bengal preview here on Sports by the Book. Alex and I are live every Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 o'clock Eastern, right here on YouTube, Sports by the Book. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button to get us live every single day during the week. Of course, our Football Frenzy show with Hall of Fame bookmakers Chris Andrews and Vinny Magliulo will be coming back this football season as well. So be on the lookout for that on Fridays during football season. She's Alex White. I'm Jeff Parles. We'll see you again on the next preview. This has been the Cincinnati Bengal 2025 season preview on Sports by the Book, live from the South Point Hotel and Casino here in Las Vegas.